Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I have last week's video right in front of me, and I'm like, oh, I'm wearing the black tank top last week, I'm wearing the white tank top this week. Listen, I've been back day on Sunday 2 weeks in a row, so, you know, this is my back day shirt. I got two different colors. I think I have a third one somewhere. I don't remember. These are the only two I've been wearing, so if the third one's tucked away somewhere, I have no idea where it is. It's been another week of just Path of Exile spamming. There's actually been some interesting 14 news and things. We talked about it on State of the Realm a little bit, which I uploaded a day late because I guess that I was playing too much Path of Exile. I uploaded both the last 2 weeks in audio format, then forgot to do the video format for the most recent week. Oopsie. It's there if you want to go watch it at the very least. Yeah, this week is going to be an interesting one. So the Support a Streamer campaign starts. By the time you see this video, it's already started. So you can gift a Twitch streamer while they're playing 14, 3 gifted subs, or you can sub yourself, or you can sub to 3 different people. Like there's a whole bunch of different ways you can go about doing it. To get that purple snowman, it's not like a great mount. I don't expect as many people to participate as something like the fat black chocobo, which I think was a lot more desired and valuable. But what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be playing 14. I'm going to be working on my mount token specifically for the barrel tender mount. I think I'm at like 48. This week I also have, what is it called? The new custom deliveries come out this week. Hildebrand is on Tuesday. So we have those. So finish up my mount tokens this week. I'll probably get to the 100 on the barrel tender, so I'll finish that. And then next week is Chaotic on the 24th. So that's what it's looking like on the schedule, but I don't want to not play Path of Exile 2. So while I'm working on the mount tokens, you know, there's some downtime. You know, you go hit a node and, you know, you hit it a few times. You got to fly to the next one. You wait a few minutes and then, you know, you're just kind of sitting there waiting. So I could put Path of Exile in the bottom right corner for a little bit. You know, I'm level 78 right now. I'm working towards level 80. I'm trying to get to my 4th Ascendancy on my Frostmonk. You know, I'm doing all right. You know, that's what I'm going to try to do. But I'll be live doing that. If anyone's interested in it, just come by the Twitch stream whenever I'm live and do the thing. There's also going to be like Twitch, like gifted sub campaigns starting on the 23rd, and then Chaotic on the 24th, then Christmas on the 25th, and my birthday on the 27th. So it's gonna be a fun rest of December, I suppose. But yeah, let's get into the Q&A here, because I actually have some other stuff I need to work on that isn't Path of Exile related. Although I do want to do one Path of Exile video where it's just me talking about my new player experience on Path of Exile 2 as someone who doesn't have like years of Path of Exile 1 experience. I'm sure I'll get questions about it in the next few weekly Q&As as well. This will also be a normal one where I don't speed round it, because I checked and there aren't really that many questions. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to ask your questions in the comment section for next week's video. I'll say that at the beginning here in case I forget to say it at the end, or in case you just don't hear me, because like I said, there aren't very many questions this week. And thanks to the sponsors over on Patreon. All my content's free, but anyone who supports over there, it's appreciated, because, you know, I don't have anything special for over there. As long as people enjoy the content, then that's all that matters for me. So with that, let's get going. Before the video kicks off, though, you guessed it, Magic Spoon is sponsoring the video. They've been on the channel for all of 2024, and can you blame me? Delicious, high-protein cereal, and with me, that's definitely important nowadays. I'm always looking for ways to change up my protein intake, and Magic Spoon offers me a nice alternative. I not only get to hit my protein goals for the day, but I get to do so with a great-tasting cereal. I also love snacking, hate to admit it, but I just substitute in Magic Spoon whenever I have it, as opposed to something like chips. You might even call me a cereal snacker. So if you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, click the link below to get some today. Build a custom box of cereal with tons of available flavors, and throw in some treat bars if you need something on the go. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mr. Happy to get $5 off of your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store, or even on Amazon if you'd prefer. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mr. Happy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mr. Happy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and now back to the video. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hiya, Haps. Hello. How you doing? Doing all right. What is one of your favorite mechanics in terms of sound? So I have a few answers, but actually, so I'll give you my joke answer and I'll give you my real one. But first, typically mechanics are memorable for their visuals or how good it feels to execute, but sound effects are something I genuinely appreciate and pay attention to after doing mechanics like Heaven's Fall Trio or Fate Calibration Beta. Honestly, one of my favorite sound effects is actually the sound of Omega casting some of his spells. Just his general casting sound, it's like a something being turned and like charged up. You can imagine almost like a Mega Man charging effect, but it doesn't sound quite like that, but it gives that same vibe. That's one of my favorite things is hearing him cast some of his abilities. Hello World is really the big one that comes to mind. His the cannon also has his wave cannon in Final Omega phase. That's a big one as well. My joke answer was going to be Light Rampant because it's fresh on my mind. The sound of the chains breaking is a classic, but that would imply it's a favorite. It's more like one that just popped up into my head, especially because of recent memory. But yeah, those are a few. I think Final Omega sound effects are definitely at the top of my list for some of my favorites. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Oh my God, there's so many hashtags. That's a lot. That's a lot of hashtags. I saw it after the first one. There's like 4 hashtags. They also did 4 hashtags and then didn't say hello. So here's the thing, 3 less hashtags, 1 more hello. Manners. Saw a graph that showed the clear rates of Ultimate to be relatively consistent with a slight dip in top and then a massive rise with Fru. What's your take on this? First, I think it's a good thing to make something so approachable, albeit easier than the previous ones, even though I think Picto is the big game changer. So I was talking about this on State of the Realm. So that graph very specifically showcases week 2 clears having a massive influx. I'm going to tell you right now, it's because any number of the people who cleared in week 1 or even early in week 2 immediately started selling it, because that's how it always works. In case anyone forgot, back in the PF, back when you used to see sales that would be advertised to be like, oh, looking to, want to help people with Ultimate, please message on Discord, people would take like pre-orders for it. People were actively like looking for people buying. And yeah, there are people doing sales is one of the reasons. Like, yes, some of it is because more people are clearing it on average. That's definitely a contributing factor. And I think the game needed an Ultimate that people felt good getting into and felt like they could actually approach, especially after DSR and Top, which were like DSR, Abyssos to Top genuinely like hurt so many people's interest in raiding in Final Fantasy XIV. And I don't like that. I don't mind challenges of that level, but that entire stretch was not healthy for the game. And I want something to get people back into the rhythm, because now those same people, if they haven't done DSR or Top, might feel like they can approach those things. And then that builds our player base of people who can tackle that level of content, and then that makes it healthier for everyone who wants to participate in it. So that's why I wanted a stepping stone. I said after DSR, I hope the next one's like T and it's pretty quick. And then it ended up being Top. And so after Top, I said the same thing, and that's what Fur ended up being. But a lot of those week 2 clears are sales. In fact, somebody in my static, so what you can do in game now is you can actually advertise mercs. Or you can, you as a player can offer to buy clears with Gil. So like you can be like, want to buy Ultimate Clear 40 million Gil per person. You're allowed to do that in game because it's for Gil. And you're the one requesting the help. So that's within the terms of service. They define that back in Endwalker. And somebody in my static joined a merc PF for Fru for 40 million gil a person. That's where I got that number. So that person spent 280 million gil and they got their clear in the PF. So like you're also going to see more of that as well, on top of the people who are doing sales for probably real money, because people have been doing that for years and years. There was actually a static that I tried to, well, I didn't even try to join. I put out an application. I put out like, looking for group thing on the recruitment Reddit. And a group had messaged me and asked if I was interested, gave me like the credentials of some of the players without naming any of the players, and then asked if I was okay with sales. And I said no. And they were like, oh, that's fine. We'll just get somebody else to join us after the tier is cleared for sales. And then they ended up saying like, oh, you know what? Never mind. It'd be easier to recruit someone who's just okay with doing sales for 8 out of 8 sales. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. They're like, yeah, one of our members pays his rent with sales. So, we're obviously not going to not do that. And I'm like, all right. Didn't see that coming. So yeah, that's definitely going to play a major factor as well, without a shadow of a doubt. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. And 2 extra hellos just in case, with a goodbye to cancel out one of those hellos. Well, you had the extra just in time because the person before you needed it. I probably answered this before, but I just missed it. Yeah, I mean, there's like how many of these? Like 300 and something, 400? Like, you can't. Oh, it's got to be more than that. How many? I don't even know how many there are. What number was this? Here, scroll up. What number is this? 526. Bro, okay, to be fair, I was thinking of State of the Realms, which I think just did 389. Okay, so you answered this before. Do you see yourself going back to the retrospective? Yeah, this has been getting asked a lot lately. I don't really see... Shadowbringers and On doesn't feel like it's retro in Final Fantasy XIV, so there's not really much else to do a retrospective on. Like, I guess at this point we are, 5 years out from Shadowbringers. We're basically half a decade out because it released in 2019. It's about to be 2025. So in a way it is, but Shadowbringers through Dawntrail has felt like one big stretch of a very similar game making nudged changes in a very linear direction. So it doesn't feel like... The only thing that's different really at this point is like the 2-minute meta. But the overall fight design has largely stayed the same, if not gotten a little bit more... what's the call? What's the word? Cinematic? No, not cinematic. It's far more... a lot more showmanship, I suppose. That's gradually increased. And then obviously, the 2-minute meta has been narrowed down a bit more, but there's not really like a whole lot. I mean, at this point, it's just a matter of looking back at patches and being like, hey, this is what this was like. And I know it's free videos technically for me. It takes like, what, an hour for me to go through most of that stuff, if even. And so I'm not going to say no. I just don't think it's time yet, is realistically how it feels. Maybe closer to the end of Dawntrail, especially if we start getting... Like, if we actually get job reworks in 8.0 that are significant and game changes that are significant to the point where Shadowbringers does actually look like more of a retro format of the game, then it starts to make more sense. If we have to wait for 8.0, that becomes a good time to do the retrospective. If we start getting those changes mid-Dawntrail, it makes sense to do them sooner. So the answer is yes, because it's effectively just looking back at old stuff, and as things become older, they fit into that retrospective. But at the same time, I'm not like jumping at it to do it now because I just don't think that it's time. It just doesn't feel like it's time to do it for Shadowbringer stuff just yet. Hashtag Mondays with Happy Mister. Hey Haps, hi. You spoke about how Pictomancer excels in longer fights with downtime and had me wondering if Picto also benefits from this in Deep Dungeon. Oh yeah, Picto in Deep Dungeon is cracked. Absolutely cracked. I don't know how Viper is. Yeah, I have no idea how Viper is. It has a lot of ranged attack options, so I have to assume it's good, but also has a lot of cleave, which can sometimes be scary, unless you're a really experienced player, in which case that cleave ends up being really, really good. And I don't know how well it pairs with Bloodbath, because it gets so many skills. I guess it depends on the deep dungeon that you're actually in. And I also, yeah, I have to imagine that's a big part of Viper, especially. Like Picto also, but probably even more with Viper. Yeah, I'd have to imagine Picto is at the very least cracked in the later ones, especially the Endwalker one, Eureka Orthos. But I don't, yeah, Viper doesn't even get most of its good stuff until after 90. I don't know how that is, actually. I'm not really confident in that. But Picto, yeah, probably pretty cracked. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey there, Happy. Hi, loving Ivy and wishing you well into the new year. Thank you, and you too. The new year part, not the... Well, no, also loving Ivy. She just went to finish her food, actually. Personal opinion question. How do you think Machinist could be fixed? I actually made a video about this in, I want to say, Endwalker? I don't remember if I remade it for Dawntrail. But a lot of it is, I think their identity for it is perfectly fine. It just feels like they don't think about the whole job anytime they make changes. Like the fact that battery gauge is completely separated from AoE. Like, yeah, you get it on some skills that have AoE, but the bot is like not an AoE bit at all. Flamethrower just isn't really, you know, its use case is too narrow. Even your AoE heat spender, it's just like you just blazing shot instead of using auto crossbow. Like blazing shot is like up to 6 targets now because they added AoE to your other skills, but they only reset on your single target. Like it just feels like 2 different people are designing the job at the same time. All you really have to do is like just fuse things together. Like every other job in the games, single target and AoE rotations are nearly identical in terms of their play pattern. Machinist, it's 2 different jobs, and the AoE, it's not necessarily ineffective, but it feels bad. Like you genuinely feel bad. Like I don't know about you, but I will genuinely just do blazing shot. Even if there's like 50 targets, I would still probably do blazing shot into like instead of doing auto crossbow and AoE. Like I don't even care. Like that's just how much more fun the play pattern is. And the fact that auto crossbow doesn't do that, it's like it doesn't make sense. Why won't you let auto crossbow also reset them? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of machinist's AoE being too strong? I don't even understand. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, just reset it. Like, it's just taking things like, honestly, flamethrower generating heat during downtime would be nice. But honestly, if it could just put down a turret, like, just have it be like a 30-second charge and you could just drop a turret or something. Like, I don't know. Like, like people have always said, like, if you flamethrower something that's been bioblasted, it gets lit on fire or something, or it explodes for a big burst of damage. Like, I don't know. Those little, like, cool flavor bits would be really nice. And none of them are there. So, it's honestly just fixing the AoE. And then it's a matter of the ping-related problem. Like, do you even address the ping-related problem? Because a lot of jobs have issue with ping. Should we treat machinists differently? Because its ping issue is more recognizable, but a lot of other jobs, I mean, have a similar issue. They're just not as harped on for it by as many people. And also just buff its damage. Like, just let it do more damage. I mean, the whole Fizz range roll should probably do more damage, but machinist especially. Like, yeah, I get it. You have dismantle now, so that's your excuse. But, like, stop making the excuse. Just make it do more damage. Oh, and I didn't even see there was a bonus question here. I got so focused on the machinist question. That's it. And a bonus question of what jobs do you imagine could come out for tank healer and 2 DPS? Tank heal, bro. You know what okay. I have Ivy's having zoomies. Hey, don't yell at me. Hey, come on up. Yeah. No. Come on, jump up for the. Don't scratch the chair, Ivy. Just jump up. Come on. There you go. There, here, guys, I have Cat. See? There you go. She's not in frame, but she's here. I promise you. So yeah, tank, healer. So healer, I still think Time Mage. I know Astro has effectively become Time Mage. It was when it first released. They've kind of given it more things now. But Time Mage is still kind of like at the top of my list for healer. 2 DPS, I want Puppet Master. I know they said if they did it, it would be a limited job, but like I'll hold on to the hope that that's not the case and they'll actually do it at some point. And then I know a lot of people still want Geomancer. Dude, so Geomancer is the other DPS. Is definitely a big one. But I was like, yo, what if Geomancer was a tank and it could like give itself earth armor and stuff? That'd be dope. No, for tank, Rune Fencer, Rune Knight, whatever you want to call it, is another pretty obvious one that I think most people would agree with and a lot of people predict. So yeah, we'll go Rune Knight, Time Mage, Geomancer, and Puppet Master. Those are the 4 to answer the question. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. You split this into a lot of lines. Hello, Haps. Hi, how we doing? Doing all right. Ivy's over here, grooming herself now. There you go. Speculation post. All right, not the greatest at these, but what if Machinist does get a party buff in 8.0? What could it look like? Well, I mean, they used to have one. The bot used to apply vulnerability up, physical or magical vulnerability up. They just had the bot when it punches or like when it. I still think that the Machinist bot, instead of doing that slow little whenever it comes up, should crash down and do AoE damage, and then maybe you just make that apply a vuln for like a short time. I don't know. Call it impact, and then it's like increases enemies damage taken by whatever. Or increases direct hit rate against opponent. I don't know. Like to imagine buffs coming out of the alt. Yeah, see, you thought the same thing with the Queen. Or even it could. I don't think the proximity around the Queen's a good idea. Unless they make it so big that it's kind of an irrelevant thing. Like it might as well just be a targeted thing on the boss, but we'll see. But yeah, dude, I mean, that's a thing for the Queen that I would do. So we were similar vein, but instead of a buff around it, I imagine just debuffing the target when it's summoned in. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi. Oh, another person. I said hello, and you didn't. Crazy. What are your predictions? Wishlist for the next Ultimate. It'll be Ascians. I know we technically just had Ascians with Logriff and Mitron, but I mean Hades and Elidibus. It seems like the obvious bit. Perhaps they'll throw La. I mean, to be fair, La Habrea and Igayorm are part of Hades. Whether or not they'll include that, I don't know. But I mean, yeah, the unsundered. I wouldn't even be surprised to see the light wardens. Like, here's the thing: Titania and Innocence are both light wardens, so having them as part of the story is actually not as weird as like some like Stormblood having Tsukiyomi and I'm not Tsukiyomi. Actually, yeah, even Tsukiyomi kind of is a weird one because of the way it's like a very isolated story. That's like the result of things that happen in Stormblood. It's not like tied directly to Shinryu in any sort of interesting way. No, I was going to say Susanoo and Lakshmi. Like, you can't, like, including those sucks. Like, it's so lame to try to do a Stormblood MSQ. But here, with Shadowbringers, we have, you know, Elidibus, we have Hades, we have Titania, we have Innocence, and then we have other stuff that would come later. I mean, we have La Habrea, we have... Technically, here's the thing. You kind of are stuck with La Habrea because you don't really want to use... not Hesperos, Hephaestus. You don't want to use Hephaestus because that's going to be part of the Pandemonium Ultimate, obviously. So you have to like use La Habrea himself, and that gets kind of strange. So maybe just Hades and Elidibus, and they're just some sort of exacting some sort of plan. Like maybe you have to like try to avoid getting your light all the way to 100 up to a certain point, or your light has to be between like 80 and 100 or 90 and 100 by a certain point so you can get the Ardbert cutscene so you can do the final bit. Some sort of weird stuff like that. But I mean, Shadowbringers MSQ seems like an obvious one. But I mean, they still have Pandemonium, they still have Endwalker itself. I'm telling you, when Endsinger becomes an ultimate, it's going to be the final phase is going to be Xenos eating Endsinger and then challenging us, you know, and then we're going to have the Endwalker theme play for that last phase. I mean, it's just that's like so easy to write in terms of like a story, a really cinematic story bit. Will likely remain the same and shouldn't. What kind of improvements? There's no improvements to be made. Like Pictomancer is a job thing. And like maybe less downtime phases, so Picto's not so strong, but Picto is still strong even without a ton of downtime phases. It's just more powerful because of downtime phases. So if anything, you know what would actually really hurt Pictomancer? Not if they couldn't do their stuff during downtime. That would be terrible if they couldn't do it during downtime. If every like phase transition actually stunned them, stunned the player, so they couldn't just do it for free or something. Or at least make it so there's more mechanics, so it's not as easy to just stand there and spend 20 seconds redoing your songs like Pictomancers actually do. There's a lot of things you could do, but I think honestly the only real problem with Fru, the only major problem is Pictomancer was too strong. Like that's just it. It was too perfectly designed. You either have to design every other job to be able to handle situations as well as Picto does, and then balance around that, or you need to do something about Picto. You really need to do something about it. Hashtag Path of Mr. Monday. Dude, I'm thinking about it this whole time. Like, how many questions are left? I didn't see that many when I was going through, but I'm taking a really long time answering them, so we have a long video. Hi, and enjoy your PoE 2 buffet. Oh, I will. Remember in A Realm Reborn, there were recipes using weapons, tools, gear pieces as materials, as a material part of the recipe. There's a few old recipes that do that. A Realm Reborn has like pieces that you can get in like Cutter's Cry and a few other dungeons that do that. But those pieces were wildly unpopular. Why did it stop? Because they were wildly not popular. Players were never going to go out of their way for it. It was just too much of a hassle to just include those specific materials. Like, even if you were going to do that now, it would be a material you craft into another material you craft. Like, you would craft a sword that crafts into something else instead of getting it as like a random dungeon drop. It was such a waste of time that nobody cared to do it. Everyone was skipping getting there. Everyone was even trying to gear out off of each dungeon. They would just like get a piece or two, maybe, if they were lucky, because we didn't have the guaranteed leveling drops back then. And then people would go like 2-3 dungeons without picking up anything other than their MSQ stuff, or if it's a second job, not picking up anything at all. And they just didn't care. Undiable dungeon gear into dyeable. I mean, they do that. That's part of their patch cycle anyway. They add that as crafted gear later. So they're not going to do that because that's like already part of their gear recycling plan. Sky Pirate Glim to eliminate roll restrictions. They're not going to make... People would complain if they had to craft to get rid of those. Although technically they have to craft to get the palette swap, so maybe not. Make Glam out of the Disciple Hand land into Glam. They're not going to do that. And maybe some catch-up gear upgrades. They don't need that. The game already has like a billion gear options. There's no good place for it. There's no good reason to specifically require that unless you're going to specifically design a piece of content with that in mind, as opposed to it being something that you do consistently across the entire game. The game's just not structured for it. It just doesn't make sense in our game. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Haps. Hey, I'm a little bummed out the idea of progression of the characters in the current Alliance Raid series will need to be divorced from the main story due to the non-compulsory nature of normal and Alliance Raid series. Progression of the characters... Oh, you're talking about Bakul Jaja, I'm assuming. Well, I mean everyone, but Bakul Jaja mainly. Do you think the Raid series should be made mandatory for story progression at some point? Which one? Because I think only certain ones you could argue it for. Like Eden, I think... If you ever want Gaia to be part of the MSQ, you need Eden to be like it's mandatory. You could argue Pandemonium, but Pandemonium is really like an epilogue, so there's no point in making it mandatory. The Alliance raids, same. Like I don't think any of the Alliance raids need to be mandatory in terms of like main story progression, other than Crystal Tower. But that's because we haven't done anything like even when we went to the Void, the Void arc wasn't required. Eden with Gaia, you know, there was a bonus scene for that. All the Void stuff we did before, there was little Easter eggs with it. But they made sure not to make any of that stuff mandatory because Crystal Tower is even still kind of like a bit much. Like they didn't even technically have to make the Crystal Tower mandatory. They decided to, and I think it was the right call. And they definitely did that because of the way here's the thing. People remember that they did it before 6.0. But they did it because in 6.0, they decided, oh, we are 100% using the Crystal Tower as a story mechanic. So we should 100% make sure they've done it before we do all this stuff. So I think the answer is there's no arbitrary yes or no. It all depends on what needs to facilitate the story. Anything other than that is not necessary. So it's a maybe because it's just going to depend on what happens. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hola. I don't know what that is. How are you? Or I don't know. Hi. Question about Pictomancer being just too good. Makes me want to know, as a Shadowbringers baby, which job was the worst on release? In Shadowbringers? What was the worst? Probably Machinist, right? What was the worst job at Shadowbringers launch? I don't remember. And you know what the thing is I've always ragged on Red Mage from like the earliest days. So I want to just say that. But I don't know if that's true because Summoner almost always has some sort of issue right after it releases. Usually there's one healer with like really bad MP costs, a tank that's a little too far behind it. There's always like one job in each role at least that's underperforming, but there's usually only one or two jobs that are ever like, please do something about this. And Red Mage to me has been that job. But I'm not confident that it was like that at Shadowbringers launch. Or maybe there was a few buffs that happened. I don't know. I really don't remember. Maybe that's, you know what? Maybe that's a good enough reason to do the retrospectives because I don't remember this. So that maybe is retro enough at this point. But it's not even about being undertuned or overtuned. Picto is over-designed. So you said undertuned or badly designed. It's over-designed. It effectively can handle every situation in an optimal way. There is a way that the player can make a good situation out of what is otherwise supposed to be a potential bad situation. Other jobs are like, oh, I don't have a target to hit, I don't get gauge. Picto's like, I get like thousands of free potency anytime there's downtime without having to worry about compromising my uptime. Like when you are in combat as a Picto, you are making the conscious decision to stop hitting the boss and do your motifs because it will be a net gain. But then you can factor in the GCDs you're not getting by painting, and it balances out at least a little bit better depending on the rest of the numbers. But when there's downtime, all that's gone. And then other jobs too, like Monk has really good downtime, but it requires the player to know what they're doing. Bard does really good downtime. They just have to make sure they're paying attention to their songs. Ninja comes back from downtime really strong because 1 minute buff windows are really good for them. And so downtime basically means you are almost always in a 1 or 2 minute buff window, and that makes them perform really well. Monk also has the same thing. Reaper does pretty well in that same regard thanks to Gluttony. Even if their gauge is technically a downside, Reaper actually doing fairly well in Fru, even though by design it should be doing not so great. But Viper's doing the job that's doing terrible because it just doesn't have good 1 minute buff window stuff to come back to. So there's a lot of things, but Picto is just over designed. It has a raid buff. It has a raid shield. It has a raid heal. It has free, it gets free damage from downtime. It already does the most damage in uptime, or at least close to the most, or like it's in the upper echelon in any given fight. Like, it's over designed. Like, and then on top of that, its numbers are high. Like, even if they reduced its numbers, it would still be the king of downtime. So that's the big problem. I think Picto is the most over designed job that we've ever gotten. That is also slightly overtuned. At this point, it's only slightly, but it's still overtuned. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello, Haps. Hello, how goes it? Good. Quick question. Due to many personal issues, I ended up as an EU player, Germany on NA server Ether. Do you think there's a hindrance to ping-wise to tackle Savage? I did Ultimate on OCE in week 2 because one of our members, two of our members live over in the OCE region and played on NA for Prague. So the 6 of us went to OCE for their mains for week 2 to get those clears. And that was fine. Like, honestly, we actually killed the boss faster on the OCE week than we did on our regular, on our first clear. Obviously, we know we had done the fight already at that point. So yes, it is a problem, but it is not an insurmountable one. As long as you can play reasonably at the ping and perform the mechanics and your job at a reasonable level, it'll be fine. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, ho, 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 chaotic Xmas is coming to town. Jesus, that's a very long one. Hey, Haps, how's PoE treating you? Good. I'm not a fan of that type of game. It's interesting to watch here and there. Now that we have a job action trailer for 14 Mobile, unsure if you plan on doing any videos about it. I did at this point. You said, writing that. Do you think there's any indication what could come to the full version? No. So a lot of that stuff is never going to come. Like, I see that, like, Bard literally has a rhythm game in 14 Mobile, and I'm like, that's never going to happen in the main game. It would be really cool if it did. I'd advocate for it, but they're not going to do that. Easier on the eye, straight up quality of life, some fancy moves because part of the announcement. No, I don't think so. You got to remember that 14 Mobile is not made by the main team. That being said, the main team does have to approve it. They see it and they go, okay, that's good, or no, you should make adjustment A or B. But they're not the ones developing it. I can't say for certain that you may not see those things. That would be arrogant of me. But it's not like they designed it with here's a tease of what's to come. It would have to be something they're copying from mobile. And I mean copying because they didn't make it. So no, I don't think so personally. But listen, if they want to take the rhythm game thing for Bard, I will actually enjoy playing Bard as someone who was an ex-rhythm gamer. So you can go ahead and steal that one, Yoshi P. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Greetings and salutations. Hello. In metaphor of the archetypes that didn't have one, which would you have liked to have a royal form? Did Monk have one? I don't think Monk had a royal form. That's the answer then. Honestly, there's so many archetypes in that game, I've already forgotten most of them. Monk didn't have a royal form, I don't think. So I'm going to go with that one. Hashtag Mondays with... What is with people not... This the third time. 3 in 1 week. Their manners. Are you optimistic about the 8.0 job reworks? Optimistic is not the right word. I will take their word for what they are saying they will do, but I will not place an expectation on what it actually means. Because you could honestly change like 1 or 2 things about most jobs, have them play almost identically with that 1 or 2 change, and that could be a brand new job. Like, for example, what if Bard still had to rotate between all their songs right now? Like, it's still the dot maintenance, Iron Jaws, all that. But you got a bonus for doing the time thing, like I was talking about the rhythm game in the question before. That's one change that changes how the song works, and that is Bard having a rhythm game become part of their identity. But then the rest of the job could still be completely identical. And that doesn't change fundamentally the way the game is played. It just gives that job its identity. So that, honestly, I will not place expectation on what the scope of this is. It will not be, I will tell you this, I have no expectation, especially, I have negative expectation that it's anything like a Heavensward or Stormblood style job design. I just think it's going to be something very similar to what is happening right now, but slightly more leaned, like the gauges being less copy pasta. That's it. I genuinely think that's all it will be. And then the usual actual job changes, like even outside of like the identity bits, like the things that do stay the same, I think we'll get job changes. You mentioned machinist here. We talked about machinist already. So yeah, but no. It's not optimism. It's realism. Like it's not going to be a different game. You know what I mean? And the last question, I thought the questions were done, so I took the questions off the screen. There was one more that asked how you find a static in game. Most people use recruitment, Reddit, Discord, and there's like a handful of Discords. There's like different ones for different data centers. You have to search like Final Fantasy 14 recruitment, but no, yeah, without going on Google, no, you're gonna go on Google because most of it's been relegated to that because the in-game PF, just most people don't advertise there anymore. But yeah, that is going to be the last question for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Still ended up being short-ish. I took a really long time answering some questions to stretch it out, but we made it work. And I got to complain about a few lack of hellos. But be sure to ask your questions in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to stop by the stream if you want the Snow Streamer mount. And even if you don't want it, but you want to support the stream, and then you figure, hey, you know, I'll use this as an excuse to drop 3 subs or sub myself or whatever, go ahead. On top of that, there's going to be like a bonus sub thing starting December 23rd for Twitch. Like you gift 5 subs and it'll gift like 1 or more. We think it's the 1 or more one again. There was a point during September back a few months ago where if you gifted 5, it would gift a minimum of 1, but it could gift up to like 100 or something. Like it was like a gift sub gamba. So every time somebody gifted 5 subs, I would gift 5 subs and we would just gamba to see if we could get the occurrence, you know? It was fun. And I'll do that again for December 23rd to I think it's January 2nd or something like that. But before that, we have the support a stream campaign. So anyway, that is going to be a wrap. Thank you for watching, and I will see all of you in the next one. Until then, take care.